We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Hey everybody, welcome to Cage My IQ. I'm your host DB. Joining with me as always is Miles Long. How's it going, Miles?
Doing good. We had a pretty bonkers fight card this weekend. It was a lot.
Exactly. I loved it. Tonight we will be recapping UFC 263, which was headlined by Israel Adesanya going up against Marvin Vettori, Part 2. For the championship title, and then co-main event was Brandon Moreno challenging Deiveson Figueiredo for the championship in the flyweight division, which was crazy in itself as well. What did you think of the fight card all in all?
I enjoyed it pretty well. This is the first fight card I've actually watched the entire prelims as well as the main card. Like, it was stacked, and there was a lot of really solid fights all around. There were some fights I was a little disappointed in, some fights that were boring, but that's exactly how I expected them to go. But for the most part, I think this one delivered, you know?
Before we get started with our recap, and then also a recap of episode 2 of The Ultimate Fighter, we want to just give a shout out to all three of our sponsors. The first one being 99 Jersey. We're now sponsored with 99 Jersey, the number one shop of boutique sportswear in the U.S. Whether it's football, basketball, or baseball, 99 Jersey has you covered. Use promo code SportsBoxShow20 at checkout to get 20% off your next purchase. And don't forget to let them know Cage by IQ sent you. Once again, go to www.99jersey.com and use promo code SportsBoxShow20 at checkout. Our next sponsor is Oddsjam. Oddsjam is the best place to learn how to make risk-free bets on sports. They have the Arbitrator Calculator, and you can find the best line to choose from to make the smartest bet around. Go to the link in the bio to get signed up on Oddsjam so you never lose a bet again. And then our last sponsor is High Tide Herbal. The owners are coaches and athletes who started this company to help athletes with wellness and recovery. All their products have CBD, and the goal with High Tide is to create an environment with conscious products that generate results. Go to www.hightideherbal.com and use promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase. Don't be the last to experience High Tide Herbal. And then, as always, we are Cage My IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the handles to the left. And then don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have all of our content on there, from preview, recap videos to the interviews that we pump out. We're over 100 subscribers right now, shooting for 200. So if you can help us out, get to the next mark, that'd be great.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, excited as always to do that. And then our question of the night right here is, what is next for Brandon Moreno and Israel Adesanya? We'll get to this in a second, but let us know what you think is next for both of them. But before we get started with the recap, I'll let Miles take the run on the recap for this episode 2 of The Ultimate Fighter Season 19.
All right. So last week's episode was actually pretty good, not going to lie. Now, I remember last week I said that Ludwig from Team Ortega was the last pick. I was mistaken. Yeah. It was another dude who was from the Ukraine who was the last pick. Ludwig was actually the third pick on Team Ortega, so I got corrected on that. But so this week was a matchup between Ludwig Sholinian, I think is how you say that, versus Mitch Raposo. And Raposo was Team Volkanovski. Ludwig was Team Ortega. And a little bit of background on each of them. Ludwig trains out of the Ukraine, apparently, even though he was born in Armenia. He made a big, long point about how his parents were from there, and then they moved to Ukraine, and that's where most of his professional experience is. He was also a 4-time national wrestling champion out of Ukraine, as well as apparently a training partner of Shazbazian. He gave him a video call saying like, "Oh, you're gonna do great." So apparently they trained together. There was some footage of him fighting out of Randy Couture's gym.
Extreme Couture.
Extreme Couture. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So I guess that might have been where they met up. But he's got a 9-1-1 pro record. Raposo, not as much known about him. He trains out of Massachusetts. He's a training partner of Rob Fonts, and he was really, really proud of that. He's got a 5-0 pro record, but he's had overall 11 MMA fights, and he's undefeated. So even in his amateur career, he never suffered a loss. Both guys, they like to stand and trade for sure. Like the week before, I think Ludwig was talking about the training he was doing with Ortega, which Ortega is definitely a jiu-jitsu guy. And Ludwig's like, man, I wish we could punch each other more. So they both really like the stand up, and they like, duking it out. But the fight ended actually after 3 rounds. Now, normally these rounds are scheduled for 2, or these fights are for 2 rounds, and then the third one, if needed, because the judges are tied up. This one went to the 3rd round. And Raposo did really well in the 1st round. Now, what he was doing, he was trying to use like hit and run tactics where he would mostly stay out of range, and then he'd shoot in with some big, heavy power punches, mostly to the body, got Ludwig in the head a few times, and then he'd shift out and then keep circling around outside of range. And it worked really well for the most part in the 1st, because what this also did is it took Ludwig's wrestling out of the equation. It's very hard to close distance and secure a takedown, because they see you coming. They're like, oh, he's probably going to do a fucking takedown. Let me stop him, So he pretty much took the 1st unanimously. There was no question. The problem was that Raposo, he, 1, underestimated Ludwig's wrestling, and 2, he didn't have the stamina to keep the hit and run tactic strategy going. So what happened in the 2nd round is about halfway through, Ludwig managed to get a takedown on Raposo, force him into a wrestling situation on the way back up, took the back, and then just weighed on him and beat on him for the rest of the round. So any amount of, critical strikes advantage that Raposo gained in the 1st half, he lost it in the 2nd half because he had no answers for when Ludwig took his back. And he was just eating punches the whole time, and he couldn't get back to his feet. So he lost in terms of significant strikes and control time. So that cinched the round for Ludwig. So they went to the 3rd, and Raposo just didn't make the adjustments he needed to make, because the round went exactly the same way. Only this time, Ludwig got the back control, which literally the same position. He was controlling Raposo from the back, 1 hook in, while he was not quite grounded, but he was like on his knees sort of. And he would just beat on Raposo. But this time he got 4 minutes of control time. He got him real fucking quick on the 3rd round. So, yeah, Ludwig got the victory for Team Ortega, which now they're 2 for 2. And Volkanovski has no wins right now, so he's not happy about that. He's super pissed.
Well, you could definitely tell between the 2 coaches who's doing the better job. It's not just the fact that both of his fighters are one. It's the fact that he's more detail oriented, and he's trying to teach him a little bit more than Volkanovski is.
Right. Well, I think they're just, it's the teaching experience that makes a difference, because Volkanovski is a good fighter, but I feel like Ortega looks at his fighter and goes, okay, this is what you're good at, this is what you're not good at, and he starts there and says, let's refine the things you're not good at, or make the things you are really good at good enough to overshadow and compensate for the things you're not great at. Now let's build a strategy to win. But I feel like Volkanovski is like, all right, here's what you got to do to win, regardless if his fighter can fucking do it or not. He's just like, this is it. If you can do it, you win. If you can't, I don't know what to do with you. So I feel like that's been a big prize, especially with Aaron Phillips, the first guy who went through and lost. That guy had like no skills, but Volkanovski didn't take the time, or at least it looked like in the shooting. They could have edited out a bunch of shit to make it look like that, but it looked like he definitely didn't take the time he needed with Phillips to go like, all right, we need to build basic levels of proficiency in all these areas to get you ready for a guy like Petrovsky. And then we need to teach you how to manage that wrestling, because that's going to be the key factor here. He didn't do any of that. But as far as Raposo and Ludwig are concerned, Raposo didn't take the loss very well. Like right there at the end of the episode, they did like the flash forward to stuff that's coming, and he's just sitting there steaming over his loss. He's like, he's not better than me. He's not better than me. I think that is probably going to unravel him in the coming weeks, because in this game, you cannot hold on to losses. You just can't do it. You got to plan for losing and go, all right, here's how we're going to bounce back and move forward. And I mean, the minute you get too hung up on a loss and it starts to fuck with you mentally, that's the kiss of death. And we've seen it time and time again in the UFC. Just look what happened to Tyrone Woodley, right? Like, he was superstar, 1 loss, 2 losses, just free fall after that. Just, you can't hold on to your losses. Now,
now he's fighting Jake Paul.
Right. That's where you end up. That's the bottom. That's where you crash land. But Ludwig really got to show off his wrestling skills. I think he needs to polish up his striking a little bit more. But man, you can't underestimate these guys coming out of Russia and Ukraine with that sambo flavor of wrestling, man. They know what the fuck they're doing, especially someone as experienced as he is.
Just look at a guy like Yaroslav Amosov in Bellator. He's from Ukraine, and he just won a title, basically dominating Douglas Lima with that sambo.
I mean, every time you see a Russian getting into the top 5, it's usually something sambo related. Like, it's a very difficult thing to answer to. Now, truthfully, I think they both could do really well in the UFC going forward. You know, Raposo's got his power strikes. Ludwig has his wrestling. They both have some things they need to kind of work on and polish up, because Raposo, if he can't deal with someone taking his back, it was kind of like the fight we saw last week with the dude who rode his opponent to victory, like literally. Fuck, I can't remember his name. It was such an unmemorable fight. I saw it last week and I can't remember. Hold on. This was last week on the Rosenstruck Sakai card. It was this one. Dolatze in his fight with Strapoli.
Dolitze, yeah.
Dolitze. Yeah. All he did was take the back and just not give it up.
Yeah.
But by that same token, like, Strapoli probably needs to figure out how to get out of those body locks. Same thing with Mitch Raposo. If he can't come up with an answer there, like, he's going to get in all sorts of trouble going forward. But it looks like we got 2 promising guys. Ludwig has a spot in the semifinals now, along with Petrosky. Both, of course, from Ortega. We apparently know Petrosky from D-Bank's hometown is 10 minutes away, you said, from his 10
house?
10
minutes away. He's
a local hero. And the next week's bout, actually tomorrow, will be between Ryder Newman from Team Volkanovski and Trayshawn Gore from Team Ortega. They're middleweights. All I know is that Trayshawn, quote, likes to knock people out. So I assume power striker. I think he's got like a 3-0 record, still very green. And Ryder, I think, is a wrestler. I think he's got like a decent wrestling background, but we haven't seen a lot of screen time from these guys. So we'll learn more tomorrow.
Usually you do their package on the week that they're fighting. So you probably get that tomorrow.
Yeah.
But
either way, it's going to be a good episode.
Yeah, but the transition from that recap to the UFC 263 recap, we got their first fight on the main card, which was an upset, I'd say. A light heavyweight matchup that saw Paul Craig defeat Jamahal Hill by first round TKO. Paul Craig moves to 15-4-1.
Oh, you picked that picture. Fuck.
Yes. 7-4-1 in the UFC. And Jamahal Hill fell to 8-1 with 1 no contest, and then 2-1 with 1 no contest in the UFC. What did you take from this fight?
Man, I really was pulling for Jamahal Hill, but that's the thing. Paul Craig is such a good fucking grappler. It's tough to combat that level of experience, because I think credential-wise, he's only a blue belt or a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The thing is, he's learned how to use it at such a high level here in the UFC, because that's been his laboratory to experiment and improve on those grappling skills. because he constantly relies on them. So, I mean, I know Jamahal Hill said like, "Oh, my first, martial art was jiu-jitsu and whatever." It's like, yeah, but you never use it at this level of competition. So that was my main concern, is that Paul Craig was going to come out and present that issue to him. And even though he had like the knowledge, he just didn't have the experience applying it in the UFC very much. So I again was pulling for Jamahal Hill, but he did start off well. I'll give him that. He started off well, because one thing I noticed Paul Craig likes to do, he likes to go all the way to the cage, and then as someone follows him, once they're like probably within that inner ring, not quite on him yet, but they're close, he'll then shoot for his takedowns, so that by the time he gets a solid, like, hands closed around the legs or a decent body lock, they're in like the middle of the octagon, so you can't rely on the cage to prop you up. And that's really where he gets a lot of his takedowns. Jamahal Hill managed to stop him in the first, but then Paul Craig was like, well, I'm already here, fuck it. So he just fell back and pulled guard. That's how we got Jamahal Hill in there. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end. And it ended with, of course, the torn out shoulder and arm reversal that we saw. My biggest question was like, where the fuck was the ref on this one? Like, holy shit. Like, okay, Jamahal Hill was like, I'm not going to tap. But that's what the ref's job is when you see that kind of damage, you're like, oh, fuck. All right, stop. This went too far. God damn it. So he should have stopped it from the shoulder roll, because that definitely tore his shoulder out. But maybe he didn't see it. He didn't get the angle or whatever. Okay. When Paul Craig reversed his arm and broke it in the opposite direction at the elbow joint, it was obvious to everybody what had happened. Ref still didn't call it. He finally fucking called it when Paul Craig had Jamahal Hill locked up in a triangle, throwing elbows to his head. You could see his broken arm just like flopping there. And the ref was like, all right, I'll get involved. And even then, he didn't get involved right away. He had to look for a second, be like, oh yeah, that is broken. Okay, stop. It was just, which begs the question, which was worse to watch, the Weidman leg break or Hill's arm destruction? Which one of those turned your stomach more? They were
you want to hear something? You want to hear something even worse?
What?
That he was a replacement rep for the guy that got COVID and was supposed to ref at that fight. Yeah. He was the guy that replaced him.
Was he like an intern, and they just like, he was like around, and they're like, all right, fuck it, we need somebody, get in there.
Just go in there. Because I saw the same thing as you. Like, from the get-go, it was like Paul Craig, he was adamant, he was fine going down on his back. He got taken down, but I kind of didn't call it a takedown, because he just like went back like this. He was content doing that. And then it just so happens Hill was kind of started to move forward as he was doing it anyway. So they called it a takedown. And then it was adamant he wanted to get that left arm. He got it right away. He knew he had the game plan. He was doing it. He caught it right away. I thought he had it the first time, and then he got out, and then he just whipped it right back in right away. He like they were saying in commentary, he was like, this guy's adamant. He's going for submissions. He's going for the ground. That's what he's doing. He was able to get it pretty quickly to avoid all the shots standing up that he was going to have to contend with Jamahal Hill. Then he got it. As he flips him over, he was already bending him back so far already, and then he just cranks it back, and I was like, oh, he's done right there. They might as well call it there, because he's already bent so far back that it's going to hurt. But then the rest is just like, let me look at my watch. Like, and then he's like, okay. He literally looks at the ref while he's cranking it back. He's like, are you going to call it?
Like, are we done? Are we done yet?
and then that's when he's like, fuck. And then he locks in the triangle and just starts pounding him. And you could see the arm wailing like this. And then even Paul Felder was like, it looks like he's tapping, but he's not, because his arm's so out of place. It's so out of place that you're just like, funny. Geez. We got a comment real quick. Hey, Miles, Nick Rick, and Morty Poster. Do you like Pickle Rick or not? Just curious.
What's going on, man? Yeah, dude. Pickle Rick is legit. Pickle Rick.
Yeah, man.
All about the Pickle Rick. I don't know if they'll ever go back to that, but I mean, Pickle Rick 2 would be kind of cool as an episode. Just saying.
It would. And I know that's coming back on, I think, next week. Yeah, on Sunday. On Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
AKA Father's Day. Yeah.
Good timing for
that. Exactly. But it's like you could just tell that his hand was wailing. I was like, that arm's done. And then
even before that, when he rolled over, it's a little bit more technical. If you're not like a grappler, you might not know, but when he rolled over like that, you have to roll with him. Otherwise, your stomach stays put. Your arm does a 360. You just tore your shoulder muscles out, which any ref who knew what was happening would have been like, oh, fuck, that's it. He's not using that arm anymore. But the ref was just like, what are you doing, guy? Yeah. Like, you just let this keep going like an idiot. Like, this is ridiculous.
And then he finally, 2 minutes later, calls for it. And it's just like, geez, he just took all that damage and then a little bit more with the arm triangle. But at least Hill was in good spirits about it. Like, he seemed okay for what just happened. And Paul Craig came over and Pyro's like, hey, my bad. The ref sucks. It should have stopped earlier. And he was like, yeah, I know, man. And then they showed a picture of them taking a picture the next day with the Hill in a sling. So,
jeez, man. Which, I mean, that begs the question: can he come back? Because I mean, it would have been one thing if it was one injury or the other, but it was both. Like, that's as bad as it gets when it comes to arm injuries. Like,
well, at least he has the youth on his side.
Yeah, but even if he does recover, I don't think that arm's ever going to be 100% again. And since he's so reliant on his striking, that left arm, that's his jabbing arm. You need a good jab if you're going to be fighting in the UFC in any division, but they're in the light heavyweights, which is typically a good mix of like power strikers and good wrestlers. So he's going to need that lead hand, especially if he wants to fend off the wrestling that he's not as good at. But now that it's gotten so much damage, it's like, that might be it. He might just end up getting released because, first of all, he's got probably some surgery to correct everything that's all fucked up now. And then he's got a long road of physical therapy, rehabilitation, retraining that arm. Like, he could be out well over a year, maybe a year and a half, depending on how bad it is. So
I think he'll be fine in time. With
I hope so.
And everything.
I hope so.
Yeah. But let's go to the stats. Worry isn't too much because the fight only lasted like 3 minutes. But Paul Craig had 43 total strikes, 23 were significant, 18 to the head, 4 to the body, 1 to the leg, 3 minutes of control time, 0-1 takedowns, 3 submission attempts. And then Jamahal Hill had 3 of 10 total strikes, 1 significant, 0 to the head, 0 to the body, and then he had 1 leg kick, 53 seconds of control, 0 takedowns or submission attempts. It should say first round submission, but because the ref didn't stop it, that's why it's TKO. So but it should have been submission because of the armbar that he had. But like we said, the ref waited so late because he was drinking his morning tea that he didn't call it right away. So
there's no way that guy keeps his job, right?
No,
like that guy got fired.
Not after that. God. That was so bad. That's unbelievable. Like, I feel bad. I feel like I could have done a better job, and I don't even think I could ref good. So that tells you a lot about that.
But geez, man, to miss all of that was just embarrassing. But I mean, what's next for Paul Craig, do you think? Because personally, I think since he won, maybe give him a matchup with number 12, Misha Kirkunov, because Kirkunov has the wrestling background. He's got some, I think he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, a little bit more credentialed. But on top of that, he's also a pretty decent striker. He's not the best in the division, but I mean, he can bring the power when he needs to. So either give him that or maybe
I was gonna say that on Nikola Krylov.
Krylov, okay. Possible. Yeah, they're both coming off of losses, aren't they? Let's see.
Yes,
because Krylov lost to Ankalaev. That's right. Now, the reason I picked Kirkunov is because like a 2-spot hop seems more reasonable than like what's that? 5 spots? Yeah, 5-spot hop because Kurlov is number 9 right now. So I mean, Kirkunov lost to Ryan Spann. I don't know how Ryan Spann would do against Paul Craig's grappling because that's always kind of been a thing he sucks at. But
Spann's fighting Anthony Smith now.
Yeah, he's busy. I know Johnny Walker's busy as well. So I don't know.
He's
one
got
of those might be okay.
He got what's his name?
Johnny Walker. Let me see. They're in the light heavyweights, right?
Yeah, he's fighting the Hammer.
The Hammer. Diego Santos.
Yeah,
Diego Santos. That fucking nickname, though.
Well, because he has a tattoo of a hammer on him.
I know, but still. That was, I mean, Melnir would be more appropriate, but you know.
Yep.
You don't get to pick the nicknames.
Nope. But let's move on to the second fight on the card. We had a welterweight matchup, which saw Belal Muhammad defeat Demian Maia by unanimous decision. Muhammad moved to 29-3 with 1 no contest, with his UFC record being 10-3 with 1 no contest. And then Demian Maia fell to 28-11, 20-10 in the UFC. What did you take from this matchup?
Man, this fight was boring, but it went exactly how I thought it would. It was like, here's the thing. Belal Muhammad has a really good pace. Like, he even weaponizes his stamina. And Maia's old. He's old as fuck. Like, he's aging out of the division. So it's like right there, you expect that he's not going to be able to keep pace. And so he's going to do whatever it takes to try to get the fight to the ground, which is exactly what he tried to do. He was just wildly unsuccessful. So like in the first, well, really all the rounds went the same way. Belal was kind of working him over on the feet, and so Maia shot in for a desperate takedown. I think he got him down once. Let me see. No, he did.
He got him down the second attempt.
Yeah, he got him down in the first round, and then he didn't do anything with it. Belal Muhammad got back to his feet, just kept working him over in the strikes. And then the second, Maia was tired, but he was still shooting for those takedowns. And it ended up being more or less just like single leg defense for mostly the whole round in the second. It was just Belal Muhammad defending single leg after single leg after single leg. I think he had, so like the first round was 11 takedown attempts from Maia, 4 in the second, 6 in the third. Meanwhile, in between those takedown attempts, Belal Muhammad was just punching him, piecing him up. And Maia just didn't have any answers on the feet. So it was like, of course, if he can't get it to the ground, he can't stand with Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad is mostly a decision fighter, so it's not like he's finished anybody recently. I think it's been a while since he's had an actual finish in his career. I think 2018, I think was the last time he knocked someone out or choked him out. But, I mean, all he had to do was outlast Maia, and that's exactly what he did. So as far as what's going on with them going forward, I don't think they're going to need to do much movement in the brackets because, you know, this is pretty much, I think it's a move up for Muhammad, but it's not a huge move.
12-9.
Yeah,
so
okay.
He moves into the top 10, basically what he was looking for.
Yeah.
And then now he's in that top 10, so now he can shoot for like a guy anywhere from 5 to 8.
That's what I was thinking. Like I was thinking maybe since he's knocking on the door of the top 10, he's like 9, so he's like right near the bottom. Maybe give him either Neil Magny, who's another like real tough decision fighter, so it's a similar style that would be more of a challenge for him, I think, than Maia was. Either that or give him Masvidal to see if he's like top 5 material, because Masvidal's been on a losing streak and he's right now number 7. So I mean, if he's starting to, you know, spiral downward, maybe give Belal Muhammad a chance to kind of use him as a springboard, because he did get a fight with Edwards, and before the eye poke he was doing well, so he might be able to hang with the top 5, but he needs a segue up there, and it would be better than, you know, beating Neil Magny, which would really only move him up like 1 place probably once the rankings settle down.
And those are the only 2 guys that he could be booked with right now, because they just booked Luque, which is 5, against Chiesa, which is 6. Mm-hmm. Thompson is fighting Burns. Thompson's fighting Burns. That's 2-4, and Edwards just fought. And then you're not going to have him go all the way up to fight Covington.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Right now, I think Covington's going to go for Usman. So
probably
so there's a lot of action. And then wow, I just see that they moved up. Ponzinibbio just moved up to 13, and Salkov is 15.
Yeah,
so you got 2 new guys, and then somehow Sean Brady moved down to 14.
I don't know how they figured this shit out. Like sometimes these moves make no sense, but fuck it.
But you have some shakeup. But basically, it just screams either Magny or Masvidal. But we'll get into that in a second because I'm going to mention Masvidal in the next fight.
Okay.
But
did you hear about Maia wanting Diaz as his last fight? Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
Hey, I don't blame him.
Maybe.
But it's crazy. Like I watched the fight and then I watched it 2 hours ago and I'm like, it didn't seem like he shot for 21 takedown attempts. Right. I don't know if they do because he didn't get the first time and then he just switched his legs. I don't know if they count that as 2. But he kept on favoring the left leg of Belal Muhammad. And then even I think it was really cool to have Paul Felder on commentary because he was a training partner of Belal Muhammad, and he basically said he was like he's one of the best at defending the one leg takedowns. He just balances himself really well. He did get taken down the second time, but he was able to get back like a minute later, or 2 a minute or 2 later. But he didn't take really that much damage. And I think all the takedowns took a toll on Maia because he was just tired when they're standing up. By round 2, because round 1 went to Maia just because of the inactivity of Muhammad. Round 2, that's when you saw Muhammad. The light clicked. He was like, okay, he's gonna keep going for the left leg. I'm gonna defend it, or I'm gonna move out of the way and then just punch him. And that's what he did. He started to move very quickly to the left to where his right foot was in front of Maia, and he just started. He would just think we would kick and then punch, kick and punch, like as a combo, and he would catch him every time doing that, and it just all that just started adding up until Maia would shoot for the takedown, and then he would just stuff it. Yeah. So the fans were kind of booing, which I don't blame him, but I couldn't blame Muhammad too much because he was defending it, and then he started to get offense going. It's just that knowing Maia, he has the same game plan every time. He's going to try and take you down, right. And he's relentless with it, whether he's doing good or not. He only had 1 of 21, but he kept on doing it. That's his game plan.
21 takedown attempts. Jesus.
And at this time, he's not going to change because he only has like 1 fight left in him after this. So it is what it is. But Muhammad was able to pick it up, move it into the top 10, and then he's a really good fighter. It's just that he couldn't get things going early because of the takedowns. Right. And that's just what's going to be like. He's not going to go up against a guy again that tries for 21. I'll tell you that. Like, like 21 is like absurd. Like maybe like 5 or 6, but he's kind of guy, just like you said. He usually doesn't knock you out, but he's a volume guy. He keeps moving. He has pretty good cardio. It just looks like he was worn out because 21 attempts. That's absurd.
I mean, that takes it out of you on both sides. Yeah. But he managed really well. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. He didn't waste as much energy, I think, as Maia did. There's an age difference there for sure, but he just kind of waited him out, got him tired, hit him if he could, slip the leg out back to the stand-up. That's what you're supposed to do. Either that or you get a decent clinch going and you force the leg out. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? If it keeps working, do your thing. Yeah, 2019 was the last time he submitted somebody, and 2016 was the last time he knocked someone out. So he's definitely more of a decision fighter.
And he has the speed and the volume to do it, so he's going to just keep on moving and popping you, and he has really good combinations when he gets going. Once he got processed with what Maia was doing, that's when he got going, and then he basically took round 2, and then the second half of round 3 with damage because of those takedowns. But we got it on here. Muhammad had 92 total strikes, 45 were significant, 38 to the head, 3 to the body, 4 leg kicks, and then the control takedown submission was null and void. And then you had Maia, who had 23 total strikes, 21 significant, 21 to the head, 0 to the body or legs, 4 minutes and 14 seconds of control time, and 1 of 21 takedowns, which is just crazy. Yeah, like I can only imagine what the percentage on this. It's probably like 0.40%.
Something crazy low.
Like very low to the point where it doesn't even matter.
Oh, I'll do the math. I think it's probably, if my math is right, I think it's 5%, but let me check.
5%, okay.
I also suck at math, so I could be totally off on that. Jesus.
I think it's like
I was right. It's like 5%. It was 0.047661 and so on. So rounded up, it's 5%. Jesus Christ, man. God
but he won, and he's moving on. I'm gonna go say Muhammad against Magny. That's what I'm gonna say. I think
that'd be the best matchup because they have similar styles, but Magny does a bit of a different approach. He really likes that clinch. He likes to get guys in, get them to shoot close, and then wear on them in the clinch. So it would be interesting to see how Belal deals with that. What's going on?
But let's segue that into the next matchup, which is another welterweight matchup in which we have a matchup that saw this was a barnstormer, I'd say, which saw Leon Edwards defeat Nate Diaz by unanimous decision. And Leon Edwards moved to 19-3 with 1 no contest, and then 11-2 with 1 no contest in the UFC, whereas Nate Diaz fell to 21-13, 14-11 in the UFC. What did you see from this matchup?
Man, it again kind of went the way I was expecting it to go. There was one big moment in the 5th that I think nobody really saw coming. But my question is, what the fuck was with all of the ridiculous acting from Nate Diaz? Like, what the fuck was that when he was like, oh, I'm tired. He like bent over, put his hands on his knees, like, oh, I got to catch my breath. Or that one time where he was like trying to goad Edwards into attacking him. So he put both his hands on the cage and like stuck his ass out. I was like, what do you want him to do with that? Like, what the fuck? It was so stupid. But it felt like Diaz wasn't even taking the fight seriously. Maybe he knew he was going to lose too. I don't know. But all the rounds essentially went the same way. Edwards invested on the front leg early with the leg kicks and just hammered away at it. He outstruck Diaz in pretty much every exchange. And then on the ground, when it did get down there, which should have been Nate Diaz's his strength, that should have been where he was strongest, he was still able to just dominate him from the top position, like you see in the photo. And Nate Diaz didn't really have any answers for the grappling situations. The only big moment that Diaz had was in the 5th with that solid punch to the jaw. And you saw Edwards like stumble. He was wobbled as fuck. And I thought, oh shit, this might be like the knockout right here. The like fucking puncher's chance in hell. But Diaz just stood there looking at him like, dude, what the fuck? Capitalize on that shit. You wore him out and then got him to almost collapse with that punch. And then you're just going to stand there watching him wobble and not do anything. Like he literally just watched Edwards so long. Edwards got enough time to recover and then stay standing for the rest of the round. Like he just frittered away his opportunity to win, which makes me think like Nate Diaz wasn't taking this fight seriously. He was just maybe doing it for the money or some bullshit like that. I don't know, but otherwise, the fight went pretty much as anybody would expect. I gave Edwards all 5 rounds, even with the big shot in the 5th. It all happened in like the last minute, less than a minute. So it was definitely not enough work to cinch him around, but it was a big moment. Other than that, no bracket movement needed on this. Maybe they'll move up Diaz a little bit because, he put on a good show there at the end. Just showed like, oh, I could still knock dudes out sometimes, maybe. But no, overall, I think giving Nate Diaz another fighter above the top 10 ranking in this division would just be really stupid. Like getting this fight was really fucking stupid. But I mean, it's about time for him to retire, which I think, given him the Maia fight that Maia called out, would be an interesting fight. They're both really good jiu-jitsu guys. That's where they get most of their victories. So seeing those two styles collide might be interesting. And then retire them both, because fuck, like, what's the point of keeping them around at this point? But yeah, I think unfortunately because of that big shot in the fifth, I think public perception is that maybe Edwards got moved to the back of the line in terms of a title shot opportunity because of how badly he got wobbled. There's some talk of people saying, oh, I don't know if he could stand with Usman, who's knocking people out now. He finished Masvidal. What chance does Edwards have, sort of thing? But I don't know. Edwards is on like a 9-fight win streak. So, I mean, don't sleep on him yet. He's been doing really, really well. And he, came back after a long hiatus and did really well in the first half of the Belal Muhammad fight. So it's not like he's rusty or, he's been, not training as hard. He's looking good. But they might make him do like an interim match before he gets his title shot. So I'm thinking maybe they'll pair him up with like Luque or potentially the loser of Burns Thompson. Just as an opportunity for him to like make a statement that he deserves to be the next one to get a title shot, even though I think he should probably get one, but whatever.
And then let's not forget why that big shot happened. Well, in my opinion, what led to it was the fact that Leon Edwards was trying to knock out Nate Diaz in the fifth round. He was kind of overextending his arm, trying to go for the knockout, and then he missed, and then he got popped. Yeah. That's how he got hit. He probably wouldn't have got hit like that had he just kept his same game plan going, which was just popping him with the boxing, which he was hitting him hard, but it was more like a jab. Like he was just hit him, and then it was just very effective. And then he got very bloody, of course, on the ground with the elbows. He had a couple elbows because of the scar tissue. I said this in my preview. I was like, this guy gets bloodied up easily because of the scar tissue, and that's what's going to happen. He's going to take shots, and it's going to look like he got beat up, which he did, but it's going to look like it's even worse. Like you see the stats right there, and he has more total strikes, and a lot of that is because of the last half of the fifth round. Like he had a good 30 or 40 just there swinging at him. But Edwards basically dominated all the fight except for like the last half of the fifth round. If you that's how he got the one round, was the last 2 minutes of the fifth round. What Edwards did was he basically just was hitting him with the combinations. He took him down 5 times, controlled him on the ground, just bloodied him up. Basically what he did, and then he was wearing him down a little bit, taking his time. He wasn't rushing anything. Then he in the fifth round he was headhunting because I guess he was like, oh, this is Nate Diaz, I want to finish him. Yeah. And then that's when he made the mistake and he almost got popped and knocked out. He got hit, he got wobbled, and then he started moving around to recover, which he did. And I didn't watch the end, but I was getting messages. Oh my God, if those 30 more seconds Leon Edwards would have got knocked out, I don't think it would have been a guarantee.
He recovered. That's the thing. Like Diaz waited too long, and he got into trouble a little bit because Edwards retreated to the cage to keep him upright. But Nate Diaz was like, "Oh, I'm going to take my time and walk over there. Oh, okay, here we are. Now let me throw some punches," which gave Edwards the opportunity to force a clinch situation, so it pretty much stalled out. Like, I think Diaz was able to get out of the clinch for a little bit and throw some more punches, but I mean, even if there were 30 more seconds, Edwards had his feet back under him. He was good. He wasn't wobbled anymore. That 30 seconds wouldn't have made a difference. No.
And then somebody heard the comment that Diaz made to Edwards. He was like, you did good. Make sure that you get your money's worth and be no more than a title shot. Do what you can, brother. And then that's when they peeled away. But he basically made the comment to Edwards, like, go for a title shot now. Like, do what you can. So he gave a message to him for the future in itself. But, with Edwards, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, for some reason, I have a feeling that he's going to fight Jorge Masvidal because he said they interviewed him. He said two things. He either wants a title shot or the backup would be fighting Jorge Masvidal. So I think he's going to get the latter. I think he'll get Jorge Masvidal, even though he's ranked number 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say if he loses, that's such a steep drop. At least if he goes up against Luque, that's a rematch, and the most he could drop is to the bottom of the top 5. You know what I mean? Like
maybe it's because the money, the name, factor. But it would have been better before the last Usman fight when he was ranked number 4. That would have sat a lot better. 3-4 matchup instead of 7, but. At this point, it's like the options are limited unless you wait. Because just look at Covington. He's been waiting since October.
Which I think is hilarious.
Oh my God. I don't know why, but he's been waiting. But looking at the stats here, you got Edwards, who had 83 total strikes, 77 more significant, 48 to the head, 6 to the body, 23 leg kicks, 4 minutes and 59 seconds of control time on 4 of 5 takedowns, whereas Nate Diaz had 130 total strikes, 76 significant, 52 to the head, 16 to the body, 8 to the leg, and 1 minute and 53 control time. So obviously everything seemed kind of bounced. Those leg kicks just killed Nate Diaz. You could tell he just kept on kicking him. And I said in the preview that he doesn't check or defend those, and then they add up, and they definitely added up in this matchup.
Well, he's from that older generation of fighters where leg kicks wasn't really a thing. It wasn't really a thing for a long ass time. I mean, at the beginning, you had like more of a boxing flavors in there instead of Muay Thai. And then as Muay Thai made its debut, you got thigh kicks, which thigh kicks kind of, people are like, oh shit, don't mess with those thigh kicks. Like those will add up. And now it's calf kicks is the most recent evolution of that. And he's just so far behind the times. I think he vastly underestimated how effective those calf kicks can be. So, and it cost him, but that's what I'm saying. Retire the dude. He's had his time. He's had his time. Fuck it.
Yep, he has. He likely will soon. But I could see him doing 1 or 2 fights just because it's Nate Diaz, and he still has the star power. Just look at the crowd. The crowd was all about Nate Diaz. So.
Did you see the pre-fight conference where he got super high? That shit was so funny.
because you can in Arizona, they allow it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also I think like a personality thing.
He even did it up to the weigh-ins.
Oh, he did? He did it again? Yeah. I didn't see the weigh-ins. I just saw him at the pre-fight conference. He was like hiding under the table and all this smoke was coming out.
Yeah, he was like this. He was standing up. He was like, you can see all the smoke and whatnot.
That's fucking hilarious.
But to move on from that 5-round fight to the first title fight of the evening, it was a flyweight title fight which saw Brandon Moreno defeat Deiveson Figueiredo by 3rd-round submission. Brandon Moreno moved to 19-5-2 with the 7-2-2 record in the UFC, while Figueiredo fell to 22-1, 9-2-1 in the UFC. What did you take from this fight?
This one was honestly a little underwhelming because if you look at the first go around with these guys, it was a fucking throwdown brawl. These guys were just beating the shit out of each other for 5 rounds the first time around. And, Figueiredo was like, oh, first time around, I didn't finish him because he was being dramatic about the ball kick and they took the point from me. I had stomach issues I had to go to the hospital for. Like, I wasn't on my game. But by that same token, Brandon Moreno had as much preparation time as Figueiredo had, right? He had like 3 months. They both had, September to December. So they both had roughly 3 months to prepare for that fight. And it was still a fucking slugfest. It was awesome to watch. But this past weekend, it seemed like Figueiredo was off. Like in the first round, You saw Moreno coming out aggressive, guns blazing, which would make sense given that, in his interviews and stuff, he was saying, like, everybody was telling me about his power, his power, his power. My coaches were like, oh, Figueiredo can knock you out on the first. You got to be careful. And he's like, oh, but, I weathered the storm for 5 rounds. I have a pretty good idea of what his striking power is like now, so I can just go in there and deal with it. So, given that experience and that strategy, it would make sense that that's exactly what Moreno's going to do. So it made sense that Figueiredo in turn would kind of like wait it out for the first part of the first half of the first round and just kind of watch him, get a feel for his movements, take a read on his range, stuff like that. The usual stuff. Like Adesanya does the same stuff. So the first part made sense, but in the second round, Moreno again just kind of dominated Figueiredo, especially on the ground, which Figueiredo is actually really good on the ground considering his credentials. Like Figueiredo got the takedown early, but Moreno just controlled him and switched it over, took the top position and just held him there for the whole round. He ate some pretty nasty elbows, like that one that blew up that little bulb on the side of his head. But for the most part,
he had the guillotine in too. Just he wasn't able to clinch it in.
Yeah, I mean, Moreno did a really solid job just dominating Figueiredo in a space that usually Figueiredo is pretty effective in. And then you go to the third and the same thing happened. Moreno took the back early, worked him over, got one, rear naked choke defense or attempt. That didn't work, so he just worked it more, sank it in on the second one and tapped him. But like Figueiredo did not seem like he was on the ball tonight. And there's been talk about how Figueiredo is naturally a lot heavier than he is, has to make weight for the flyweights. And that's why weight cuts are really hard on his body. And this has been like a running issue for him. So he's been talking about maybe moving up to the bantamweights, which might be a bit easier in terms of his natural weight versus how much weight he has to cut. Might be just more comfortable to him to compete at that level. I don't know. But if he decides to stay, it's like, well, where do you go now? Because I know fans probably want to see them run it back and do a trilogy because Figueiredo was definitely not, giving it his all 100%. I think people want to see another sort of Figueiredo Moreno 1 where it's just like a fucking war. So that might be in the cards. I don't know if they're going to turn around and do it right away because this one was a little underwhelming. So I don't know if they'd get the kind of money and the kind of pull that they would be expecting from that kind of fight. So maybe instead they give Figueiredo a shot at the winner of Pantoja Royval, or give him Kai Kara France, because in that top 5, top 7 lineup, Kai Kara France is the only other guy outside of Oscar Askarov who doesn't have a sitting on a loss. And, Pantoja is busy.
And Askarov called out Moreno.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
And then he's saying they have unfinished business.
Yeah, because Askarov is the only guy in that division who's not sitting on a loss in the top 7 and isn't already busy. Because Pantoja came off of a win, but he's already booked with Royval, so you can't do that. But Oscar Askarov is number 3. He's been on a winning streak. The guy's really good, so that would be a really solid first title defense for Brendan Moreno, because he's just such a well-rounded fighter that I think people also really want to see that fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you hit the nail on the head with the weight cut. They were doing weigh-ins. He came in. I think he was one of the first people in. I don't think he made it right away. So you were able to come back, of course, try to weigh in again. He was one of the last people to come in. And it was kind of dramatic because he came in. They're like, he needs to make weight, or this is going to be another Figueiredo Benavidez 1 where like no matter what, like it's a lose-lose situation, because then they're likely he would win, but wouldn't get the title, and then you would have to do it again. Right. Obviously, but he came in, he hit exactly the weight, and it was kind of like a pause, like it was like, oh, thank God. So he comes in. And it was just adamant right away when they started the fight. Moreno was coming in, the aggressor. He came in, started hitting him right away instead of pulling back and doing his counter, which is a flip from the first fight. And then Figueiredo was holding back, waiting. So it was like they flipped roles there. And then instead of throwing the combinations that Figueiredo usually does, he was throwing like a big overhand right or a big overhand left, but not putting anything with it. It was kind of like a caution to the wind, throwing it, and then if it doesn't connect, it doesn't connect. But I'm going to put it out there to scare him, and he didn't do anything with it. And then Moreno was just able to boom, 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 and just hit him with combinations and shots the first round. He was able to get that under his belt, and then he got out of the guillotine, and then started taking him down, wearing him out. He actually had a shot at a rear naked choke in the second, but Figueiredo got out. And it was a little bit of the same in the third. Punch, punch, punch. Leg clinch. He somehow takes him down, and as Figueiredo's rolling, he gets to his back. It was like this motion, and then he had him in the lock, and it was just he was punching him. You see him punching him. You knew that he was punching him to get him to move the one hand so he could get in that choke to finish him. He got it in after those punches, which were hard punches. Like I'm like, geez, I'm like, he's doing damage just trying to get the submission, and then he got the submission, came out, and it was crazy because he got up acting like he didn't win anything. It was just like every ordinary day type of walk down the street he was doing. Right. And it looked like he didn't kick in until like a minute later when somebody was telling him, hey, you just won the title. And he was like, oh, shit. And then he just drops to the ground like you couldn't ask for a better thing for a nicer guy. They even said they had a thing afterwards, post-fight, where there was a video of him getting greeted by Israel Adesanya, and Adesanya goes, "Great job, champ." He was like, "I couldn't ask for a thing to happen to a nice guy. You're one of the nicest guys in the world. Congrats! Like, hold yourself high. You're gonna make a nice payday after this." And this is a guy that was the last pick in the Ultimate Fighter of his season. A few years ago, he got cut, came back, and then just comes back strong. You can add this to the list that we did last week with like the Jan Hovic of the crew. You can add him to that, like to these guys that Charles Oliveira that struggled early on in their career, either came close to getting cut or got cut, and then had to like bounce back. Yep. And then that's the theme of 2021 for me is the bounce backs, the comebacks, because that's three guys now that have done it. Yeah, in the group, and this guy deserves it. He put in the work, and then he won. And just look at the stats right here: 71 total strikes by Moreno, 47 significant, 29 to the head, 9 to the body, 9 leg kicks. 4 minutes and 49 seconds of control on 2 of 2 takedowns, and then 2 submission attempts. Figueiredo had 33 total strikes, 24 to significant, 9 to the head, 11 to the body, 4 leg kicks, 1 minute and 30 control time, and 1-on-1 takedown. It was basically a landslide to me for Moreno. He was winning all 3 rounds. Yeah, he was dominating the matchup. That's why he deserves the victory. Like he put in the work. He changed his game plan. I said it like last week. I was like, he needs to change it up and then use the takedowns and be a little bit more aggressive. Like the countering was good, but he was allowing the Figueiredo to damage him and get his game going. Which was why like it was so close. Like even though I thought Moreno was doing good at that fight, but he flips it and then just dominates in this. And this shows just like a whole new Brandon Moreno. Like if he's the guy aggressor, now you're gonna have to watch out because he was winning without doing that, and now he's like dominating a guy that we thought that was going to be like a big player in the UFC just because he was dominating that division with the power that he had.
Right. And I mean, I think it was probably a change up in the coaching too, because he was saying his coaches were a lot more apprehensive in the first fight because Figueiredo was more of an unknown quantity because he had put so many dudes away in the first. They were like, we don't want you to just run in there and get knocked the fuck out. We got to be more strategic. And then I think after the first fight, the coaches and Brandon Moreno were like, okay, so you're durable enough to handle the power strike. So now it's time for you to start going first, because if you can go first, you can dictate the pace of the fight. And for the most part, that's what Figueiredo was doing to him in the first fight, was he was dictating the pace. So now that Brandon Moreno was like, all right, I'm durable enough to at least hold up to his power punches. Now I should be the one initiating and trying to set that pace. And to be fair to Figueiredo, I looked it up. Apparently just walking around, he usually weighs around 152. And he cuts all the way down to 120. That's bonkers. That's almost 30 pounds.
Yes.
Like, holy shit. No wonder he's off. Like, goddamn.
That would be Jan
27 pounds.
That would be Jan Hovich cutting his 220 to go to 190 to try and go to where Adesanya is.
Right. Like, no wonder he wasn't 100%. In fact, he would probably, weight-wise, fit better as a featherweight. Like 3 divisions up would probably be more of a sweet spot for his natural weight, which I think, it makes more sense for him to maybe go to bantamweight, because if you're having to cut 27 pounds every time to make weight, not only does that affect you in that fight, but long-term, that's going to wear on your body, because your body's not meant to be dropping and gaining that much weight in such a short span of time. Repeatedly over a long span of time. So
I'm just gonna say this I'm just gonna say this right away. Can you imagine Deiveson Figueiredo against Peter Yan?
That would be kind of cool, actually. Like, that would be kind of a legit fight, because they have two sort of different flavors.
And then just for the fact that Figueiredo wouldn't be cutting that weight, and he'd be at like a more natural rate where he could get that speed. Like, I don't know if he would have that same speed there. Like, he would still be fast, but he wouldn't be going up against the flyweights. Right. But then again, the flyweights are usually faster than the bantamweights, so it might actually help him
for a fucking flyweight too. Yeah. Even with the weight cut, like, he was still doing really well.
So it might actually help him out.
That's what I'm saying. But the question is, do you start him from the bottom, or do you kind of give him a leg up and maybe start him off with like a Garbrandt or the loser of Sandhagen Dillashaw, or even like the winner of Aldo Munoz? Like, any one of those would be dope.
Yeah, like you got Peter Yan, Corey Sandhagen, Rob Font. Jeez. TJ Dillashaw, because he's not listed on there, but they should have put him on it. Like, it's the John Jones effect. You're up there, one shot away, but we're just not going to put you on the rankings yet until you fight. It's like, just put me on the rankings.
Because I mean, there's definitely more matchup options in the bantamweights, because people aren't as busy. There's people who could realistically put on a really good performance, but Figueiredo is such a dominant fighter. He was a power striker in the flyweights. I think he would still be a power striker in the bantamweights, because I mean, he's not only got the power, he's also got an extensive grappling background with his jiu-jitsu. He's a pretty good wrestler as well. Like, I think he would be a pretty good match for Corey Garbrandt, because Garbrandt's got wrestling. He just never uses it. So if he wanted to stand a chance, he'd be forced to use those skills. Sandhagen and Dillashaw, both of those guys, power strikers, so we'd see a slugfest there. Aldo or Munoz, both of them big strikers. Aldo's also got a lot of good ground stuff there. Whoever won and got Figueiredo in that fight would be a freaking throwdown. It'd be awesome. So I don't know. Maybe that's the best move for him going forward, because I think he could be a real contender in that division.
I think that's why there wasn't really much talk of a trilogy after that was done. It was more so they made a point to mention that Askarov called out Moreno for unfinished business, and then it was like somebody was like, "Oh, there's a trilogy, blah blah blah," but they were like, "We're gonna get to that later on." I think the best bet would be for him to move up, and then to get somebody maybe in the 3 to 6 range, because I think. With how he was in flyweight, like he deserves to at least be up there because of his new name.
It also doesn't make sense to make him fight some of these guys here at the bottom, like Dominic Cruz. good fighter, older fighter, wouldn't be able to keep up. He just wouldn't. Dvalishvili, all ground, no hands. He would just get knocked the fuck out. You know what I mean? Like some of these guys, they're good fighters, but they're also kind of one-note fighters, and it wouldn't make sense to put him up against Figueiredo, who's so well-rounded.
And then just put Moreno against Askarov because he's right there too. He's sitting there waiting. So put that there, and then see what happens from there. Barring who wins that. Yeah. But I think that's what's going to happen there. But congrats to Brandon Moreno. Absolutely. Happy for him. Yeah, really good story. Definitely check out all of his fights and where he's at now. And then now he gets to reap the benefits now of being a champion.
Which, I mean, I wonder how long he's going to put off fighting again, because the reception he's going to get in Mexico, like, holy shit, he's probably just going to be so busy with, like, interviews, photo shoots, fucking
he is the
whatever,
first,
all the things, appearances, you know?
The first Mexican-born fighter to win a UFC title, because King Velasquez was Mexican, but he was born in America, so he's only part Mexican from what I.
Well, the other big thing was that Moreno actually trains out of Mexico. He didn't have to come to the States, because that's another thing Leon Edwards was saying is like, I want to train out of Birmingham and in London so that people will know you don't have to go to the States to be a champion, to be an amazing fighter. And Moreno had the same attitude. I
was checking out that the gym that he fights out of, and it's like they're all from Mexican born fighters. I think there's one person that I think Tatiana Suarez. I don't think she trains out of there, but she trains close to there. But she made like a tweet after he fought, and I'm looking at the names. I'm like, I don't see any names that I recognize really. But I'm like, he's the guy at that gym now. He's the head honcho now. So he put that on the map. So hey, that's a big thing down there for him to win, because now you're gonna have a lot of people like, oh, he won. That means I can win. So it's gonna definitely grow the sport even more in Mexico.
Absolutely. I mean, it'll just be a matter of like, when does he want to fight? And then when's he freed up enough? Because now he's going to have all kinds of deals and all. He's basically going to be like a Mexican Conor McGregor. Like, you know what I mean? All the deals, all the appearances, whatever he wants. Like he could make a fortune on his reputation alone.
Because they both fought in November, and then they came back and fought in 3 weeks' notice against each other. Drew to that 6 months, just did this one. So I could see it being 6 months again.
Possibly. I think Moreno might want to just take the year off. It'll depend on how much pressure Askarov puts on him. You know what I mean? But I mean, if I was Moreno, I'd be like, I'm going to enjoy this for a while. Like, I'm going to enjoy this.
That's three fights in 6 months, you know. Give me some time off, celebrate in Mexico, you know.
And he earned it, you know.
Yep. But let's move from that title fight to the main event of the evening, which saw the middleweight title fight, where Israel Adesanya defeated Marvin Vettori by unanimous decision. Adesanya moved to 21-1, 10-1 in the UFC, and Marvin Vettori fell to 17-5-1, 8-3-1 in the UFC. What did you take from this matchup?
I've been predicting the outcome of this fight since Vettori Holland. Like, I don't know. You kept going like, oh, I don't know. I think Vittori's got what it's in. I was like, dude, are you high? He's not going to beat Adesanya. He's not going to do it. And sure enough, I was right.
I picked Adesanya all along. I was going with him no matter what. And what did I say? I said I thought he could take him down, but I don't think he was going to take him down that much. And that's what happened.
Well, he also he wasn't any different than the first time around. He got his takedowns, and then what did he do? Nothing. He just laid on him every time. I was like, yeah, of course Vittori's not going to fucking win. So basically, when all the rounds went roughly the same way. When it came to the stand-up, Vettori just got pieced up. He's got the shit knocked out of him because, you know, Adesanya is just a better striker. Objectively, he's a better striker. And so when he felt a lot of pressure, then Vettori would be like, all right, I got to go for the takedown, right? And he did get one takedown in the first, one in the third, and one in the fourth. The first round, I think, is when he had the most control time.
Well, speaking of that, look at these two comments right here. Marvin had round 1, 3, and 4 should have won.
He had takedowns in 1, 3, and 4, but he didn't take the fucking round. There's no way because he got his takedown.
The old style, he would have won. The old style,
sure, old point system, maybe, but. Like, that's the thing about the old point system, why it was such bullshit. If Marvin Vettori would have won that fight for literally laying and praying, like, how does that give you a fucking win when every time it was on the feet and your hands are tested, you're getting pieced the fuck up?
You might as well bring back John Fitch.
Right? Or fucking, who's the big fat guy? Oh, I can't remember. Shit. I'm trying to remember some old names.
Roy Nelson.
Roy Nelson. Yeah, Roy Nelson. But I don't know, man. I don't know. This fight went exactly as I thought it would because, first of all, Adesanya has been working his grappling and his takedown defense. It's clear. He wasn't as successful as stuffing Vettori's attempts because he did get taken down more often. But what you saw was the first takedown, I think, was the most like Vettori sunk it in and just put him down without very much resistance. And Adesanya was like, fuck, already got me. And he kind of struggled a little bit to get back to his feet. I'm seeing here like roughly 1 minute and 8 seconds in control time on the ground for Vettori. So he struggled a little bit there, stuffed Vettori's second takedown defense or takedown attempt. But he was landing heavy shots on Vettori the whole round. Second round, Vettori didn't even get a takedown. He attempted 3, got 0. Meanwhile, Adesanya was just working the legs and beating the shit out of him on the feet. Third round, Vettori got his takedown early, but Adesanya slipped out, and he was in back guard. Like, fucking Vettori took the back. That's where, if he was going to finish Adesanya, that's where it should have happened. He couldn't make it fucking happen against someone who's vastly more inexperienced than him. Like, he was handed a gift. And he just squandered it.
It was so, like, I was watching it was slow with it. Like, I'm like, all you gotta do is lock him in right there, and he's good. But it looked like he went too slow with the lock. He had the one hand, and then he went to do it, and then you just see Adesanya go whoop whoop whoop.
Yeah, he just flipped over. Which, by the way, if you're Marvin Vettori with more grappling experience, you should have body locked him because body locking with the legs makes it much, much harder to defend. But he just like lazily put the hooks in, is like, all right, I'm going to take my time now. It's like, motherfucker, you don't think Adesanya's been working on his takedown defense since the Yahovich fight? Because that's what cost him his first loss. Like, he just didn't execute at all. And Adesanya just reversed it on him. And then the fourth round, he got another one. But that time, Adesanya like instantly reversed it. He just flipped him right back around and got straight to his feet. He didn't get like any control time on the ground. So the more Vettori took him down, the less effective his takedowns were. He was able to hold Adesanya on the ground less and less every single time. And then he was like not worried about his legs, I guess, because those leg kicks were adding up. In the third, his legs straight up gave out from under him and he fucking fell over. So, I mean, just all around, Adesanya had a better strategy. He executed it better. And he was just so much more in control of that fight. Adesanya was able to like fuck around with him. Like in the fourth, when he started grabbing his ass in the wrestling clinch, which was really funny. And then at the end, when Vettori decided to try to take him down in the last like minute or last 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And when that didn't happen, he was like, I'm going to punch him in the leg. And then Adesanya like pretended to cry and stuff. Like, that's just how outmatched Vettori was in this fight. It was a clean sweep. I gave Adesanya all 5 rounds. So did every single judge on this card. Like, it was a matchup that Vettori was destined to lose. He only got it because Whitaker said he wanted to wait. And then Adesanya called out Whitaker, which is the fight we should have seen all along. Like, this was a fucking blowout, man. Fucking blowout.
I won't lie. I gave the first round to Vettori, but then I gave the...
What? For what?
Because the input, he did hit him a little bit, but Adesanya didn't really do anything in the first round.
Still led in the first round in the strikes. It was 18-11 in the first round.
Yeah, but then he was on the ground.
One takedown, but he didn't do anything with it.
He had him on the ground for what, 2 minutes in the first round?
He laid on him. He's like, I'm going to put my man titties on you. Here we go. Like, I don't think
but it comes down to you got to add up both, and I had him. I said I had him win the first, but I had him like it was like an inch win, And then after that, it was all Adesanya. So I'm not saying like, oh, he should have won. I gave him the first round.
I didn't give
so
him the first.
I had it 4-1 because you got to balance out with the judging system. You got to balance it out. Just because he has 7 more strikes doesn't make him the clear-cut winner. And he was taken down, and then he was held on the ground for half the round. So
yeah, but that's just it. When it comes to the grappling, you got to do more than just hold somebody. This is MMA. This isn't like Greco-Roman wrestling where you're just like laying on the guy and trying to flip him. That's not how this works. If he gets a takedown, do something with it. And there was multiple times, even in the first round, I think there was like a couple of times where the commentators are like, dude, they're going to take it from him because he's not doing anything. They're going to stand him back up because all he's doing is laying there. He's not letting the hands go. He's not doing submission attempts. He's doing nothing with those takedowns. And it's like, then he got him to the ground. So what? Like, you can get people to the ground. It's, are you working? Are you bettering your position or going to finish? Like, he wasn't doing any of that.
But at the same time, Adesanya only had 18 strikes. So it was only 18-11. So it was a very small.
But his percentage was way, way higher. Like, he was landing more often because the thing was Vettori was getting slipped all the time. His striking ratio percentage for the significant strikes, 37%, which is pitifully low. Adesanya's was 56, almost 60%. So, like, even though he only had a little bit more in the striking, when you look at the proficiency rates, that just shows you how much Adesanya was slipping and getting out of the way. And Vettori could barely land a fucking finger on him in the first, which, again, it's like the overall performance. Yes, Vettori got him to the ground. Yes, he laid on him, but I mean, he didn't do anything with the grounded position, which is not how you win in MMA anymore. When it came to the hands, he was completely outclassed. And when it was on the ground, that was his opportunity to catch up in those significant strikes and make a statement. But he didn't let the hands go.
I've seen a lot better guys like John Jones win that way.
Well, I mean, John Jones has been around a while. So, I mean, he was also in the older point scoring system for some of those fights as well.
Well, Vettori's been around for a while, so
I think that's why he misses the old scoring system. Like, I think that's why he was so adamant he beat Adesanya the first time. He's like, I got my takedown. What the fuck? Why didn't I get the fight?
But that's why I've seen better guys do this, and then they've awarded them the round rather than award him the round just by, I lost by striking by like 7, but then I got the takedown and controlled half the round. I didn't do anything with it, but I controlled half the round. So it's like you have to have some sort of balance. But afterwards, you know? all Adesanya did was had 7 more strikes. There's no balance with that. He
was like slipping and dodging. He like.
What is slipping and dodging?
It shows you how much better he is, like, just in general. If Vettori is trying to hit him desperately and can't even touch him, like, come on. Like, there isn't really a category for evasion, but it is part of the striking component.
I was about to say there's no evasion or ducking in the
it's not, but it's built into part of how you evaluate the stand-up, the striking. We count the critical strikes, but we also count, well, what does defense look like? Because that is a stat that's measurable. We look at the stats for like defense, overall punches absorbed, things like that. Those things do matter, you know?
Yeah, and Vettori's defense was his takedown. He held him on the ground
because he didn't have any defense otherwise. Like, he was just getting his ass beat.
He held him to 18 shots, and he wound up tying himself out because of 30%
accuracy. That's pitiful. And it
so in your eyes, if a guy has 6 of 7 strikes, which is highly effective because he only misses 1, and he fights the guy that gets 20 of 50 in the same round, who are you getting the fight to?
Well, that's not the situation we're looking at. They're comparable, though. It was 29 to 32 overall, and the ratios were all completely off.
But you're showing the percentages there. You can't just use the percentage to prove this point and then not use it for another point.
But you're not comparing apples to apples, though, because in one of those, you said 7 total out of 15. That's a pretty big spread in totals. But when we look at the totals here in the first round, 32 overall strikes for significant strikes out of Adesanya, 29 overall significant strikes out of Vettori. That's only like a 4-strike difference. And then when you look at the total strikes thrown, it's a pretty consistent 41 to 33. It's not that big of a spread, And yet when you look at the significant strike ratios, they're completely out of whack, even though the spread is only 4 strikes. Like that margin versus the percentages of accuracy that tells the story.
And I'm still going with the Vettori in round 1. The rules of the odds.
Fucking crazy.
I'm buying by the rules. That's what the rules tell you. They tell you that they've done this to divvy everything up because the takedown was too heavy crazy. You can't just go from heavy crazy to non-heavy crazy where you don't give the takedown any merit.
I did give it merit. That's the thing. I gave it merit, but he didn't do enough work with it, and he didn't do enough work on the feet to balance it out.
You don't have to do work with it.
Yes, you do. Otherwise, it's lay and pray. It's lay and pray if you don't do work with it.
Exactly, and then that's
bullshit.
why they fucking dumbed this down to begin with, was with the lay and pray. So instead of getting like 9 of 10 points for the takedown, he's only getting half of that now, and they're putting more emphasis on balancing everything out. So
right.
Whereas he
capitalized and caught up in the significant strikes. Because like I said, the margins weren't that
it was 7 less
apart.
strikes. Only 7 less strikes.
No, 4 overall. 4 overall strikes and that's the margin. It's just he was 7 strikes less effective. Like that, the margin in terms of what he landed versus the overall is much wider, which tells you that he was throwing a lot but landing very little. And then he just lays in praise, gets back up, and then just gets whooped on for another like minute and a half, 2 minutes, something like that. Like he didn't do nearly enough to take the round. Now, if he had been on the ground, ground and pounded, looking for submissions, okay, he's working, he's moving. And honestly, that would have put more pressure on Adesanya, giving him more variables that he could not deal with. But he didn't do that. He didn't do shit.
Well, Adesanya didn't do shit either because he
was on the bottom. What do you do on the bottom? What do you do on the bottom in a half guard?
That's his weakness. That's what I'm saying. You can't give him around for that. It's just like Belal Muhammad fighting Maia. He couldn't get anything going because he was laid and preyed on.
But like in the bottom position on a half guard, that's the position where you can almost do nothing. It's that in side control. When you're on the bottom position, really what you're trying to do is create space, get the hips off of you, and get back to the feet. That's your strategy there. There's not a whole lot you can do, especially from the traditional half guard where they lay on you like that, instead of a modern where they're more upright. So, I mean, Adesanya didn't have answers because there's really not a whole lot of answers to be had in that position. Not to mention the skill deficit. The difference is Vettori did have the training. He did have the experience to know what to do there, and he didn't do shit. He didn't do anything, which actually gave Adesanya the chance to get back to his feet, which should not have happened.
Does Maia not have the training?
Well, Maia does, but here's the thing. He couldn't even get Belal to the floor. He got him down once, and then Belal managed to get back to his feet. Because getting the takedown doesn't cinch you the round, because if you're not doing anything with it, then you lose it very quickly.
Who won the round? They gave it to Demian Maia. Round 1.
Round 1? Oh, actually, I had Belal taking that round personally, because he was piecing him up on the stand-up.
Yeah, but he didn't get anything started because he was on the ground.
He still managed to pull ahead in the striking and the significant strikes. It was just he wasted a bunch of time on the ground or on the wrestling part. Not even just on the ground, it was the wrestling.
And then they gave the round to Demian Maia. It was 29-28. They gave him the round. And one
of them gave him the round. It was 30-27 from Sal D'Amato or whatever his name is. So it wasn't unanimous, but yeah.
But how you? But that's my reasoning. How are you going to score that one way, but then score this another way?
I'm not scoring it another way. I scored them the same. I gave Belal Muhammad that round.
But that's what I'm saying. There's like with the judging. There's no clear cut. This is how we're going to do it.
They never have that. It's always problematic.
Exactly.
With the judges.
Exactly.
The judges always fucking up.
But it's crazy. You have the same situation on the same card, and you score one fight this way, and then another fight where it's the same exact situation, and they score it the other way.
The judges suck. My scoring is consistent between those two situations. The judges are fucking terrible. We know this. We've had this conversation.
I don't think this was terrible in this fight because it's like you have to. Because how are you going to have if you have a guy take you down? Yes, he didn't do anything, but that's why you dumbed down the thing because he still got taken down and it had nothing to do because he was held down which he still scored on that. But then he does better on the stand-up with the striking. So you got to balance it out. You can't just
but
be
it's
like,
also
yeah,
proportional to how much of the round that took up, right? He got his takedown. He took him it was less than a minute because there was also wrestling control time spliced into that stat. So less than a minute of the round, of a 5-minute round. So less than a fifth of the activity.
He was in more than 2 minutes.
Control time's only 108. Control time's only 108 for Vettori for the whole round. So
he had him down for like 2-3 minutes.
No, he didn't. It's right here, 108.
I watched it.
Stats. This is from the UFC stats. He only had a minute and 8 control time for the whole round collectively. Here, I got it. Let me show you. So this is a round by round breakdown of pretty much everything, but you could specifically see the takedown is 1 of 2. So he did manage to get him down right here. And then for total control time, he only got a minute and 8 seconds of the whole round. So that includes all the grounded time and all the wrestling. So if you splice it apart, that means he probably had him less than a minute down on the floor in control. And Adesanya got 0 time for that. So it's not like he reversed it. So he just less than a fifth of the round is how much Vettori put in an activity. And he got 1 takedown, didn't do anything with it. And he got pieced up on the stand-up. The balance there just shows you. But that's
the thing. How can you see somebody gets pieced up if they only hit you 6 more times? That's just you narrowly.
Because when you look at the margins, you play into that 56%, 37%. It shows you they were landing more consistently, and their defense was that much better.
That just means you threw less. And then he
only threw 4 less strikes. The margin is 4 strikes. That's it. That's not like a huge mismatch. It's so freaking close. The margins speak volumes because they threw roughly the same. 4 strikes on a margin is like fucking nothing. 4 strikes is a combination.
Okay. So put this way. You basically throw the same, but he was just a little bit better with his because he landed more.
Not just a little bit, like 25% better. Or no, I'm sorry, not 25. Almost 20%.
6 strikes more.
Almost 20% though, because once you get the rates.
Okay, so that's the only difference with the striking. He didn't get any takedowns. Marvin Vettori got a takedown. He
didn't need to. The activity Marvin Vettori got was less than a minute of the round, less than a fifth.
So basically, you're null and voiding any takedown.
No, I'm not nulling and voiding it. I'm saying he got less than a fifth of the round's worth of activity out of that takedown.
And then I'm saying
to deal with the 4/5 of the round where he got beat the shit out of.
Which he didn't because he only got hit.
He did.
Six times more. You can't.
So what? When you look at the ratios, and the percentages, it's 20%. That's a big spread.
But you don't. When you're fighting, you don't go by ratios and percentages. You go by.
When it's this close, you do, because what that does is it contextualizes the data. The ratios show you, okay, it gives you an idea of defense, because in this case, it was evasion and overall blocking ability of Adesanya versus Vettori's, and the explanation is pretty clear. Adesanya was landing more consistently and defending better.
But he wasn't, because in that round he only landed. If you want to go by percentages, he was only landing 1 more punch per minute in that round.
20% though overall. 20%.
And then in a 4 minute. He was taken down for a 4 minute. So you have
They have wrestling time in there too. It's overall control time, not just ground control time, which means if you parse out the wrestling, it's probably less than a minute.
Yeah, but in control time, it's not until you have the advantage that they give you the control.
Right.
So when you're wrestling,
that's why I said it factors in the wrestling, but the takedown itself, he didn't do anything with it, and it was less than a minute. And in the wrestling, he couldn't make anything happen either.
He even said it's more than a minute.
Minute and 8 seconds collectively between the two of them. So the wrestling was separate from the ground.
That's not between the two of them. That's when he has the control time.
Because if
Adesanya had any control time, he would have had time on his, but he had 0.
Right. He was defending the wrestling, and then he got taken down in the bottom position, which is why he has no ground control time.
So you have
no control time in general.
So you have 1/5 of the round he was controlling by having him down. So in essence, if collectively between the two of those, so there's 4/5 of the round where he got beat the shit out of. So if by 6 strikes, you're acting like he got hit by 20 or 30 more strikes.
I'm not saying, I'm saying the spread is big enough to where his defense was superior as well. It is. It's right there. It's 20%. It's 20%. It's right there.
It's not, though.
It's right there.
You're disregarding, because by doing that, 20% is how much he had on the takedowns as well. So if anything, you give it a wash
50%. 50% because he only got of 2. He got stuffed on the second attempt. So in terms of defense, Adesanya had a 50% defense rate. Vettori had a 50% takedown rate. So that's a wash, but the strikes are not a wash. That's a pretty big fucking margin.
So if you look at the total strikes, 23-19. So that's only 4 strikes.
Yeah, that's what I said. Only 4 strikes. So the margin is pretty consistent.
So that's even worse. That's proved my point even more.
No, it's not. It proves my point because they're striking at a pretty... They're throwing at an overall fairly consistent overall rate, right? So like their totals are so close. The differential can't be accounted for by total differences. The differential is accounted for by defense and evasion. Proper defense. That's why Vettori only had 37%.
But then scoring systems based on not just striking, it's based on several aspects of the game.
Right, and the aspect of the other game only accounts for a fifth of the round, a fifth of the activity. That's it. The other 4/5, he was completely outclassed. No question. But he wasn't. And part of that 1/5, he got stuffed on the takedown attempt. So of that 1/5, he didn't even have control over that full fifth.
But he barely beat him in the striking by 4 strikes there, and then.
But his defense was superior. Not only did he come ahead in the striking, the reason you see a difference in the striking differential.
But what defense when he was taken down for almost a fourth of the round?
He got one
was taken down and controlled.
He got one takedown defense. Yeah, he got one takedown defense. He got controlled. So 50% on the takedown defense. And then you add in the actual successful takedown and the control, that still only accounts for a fifth of the activity. There's 4/5 of that where he was just dominating.
And that's where I'm saying this is flawed because they should have gave it for Vettori because they're not factoring in the takedown at all.
They did. It's just not enough. That's all it is. It's just not enough.
Because if you do the old way, he would have won the round because they would have put more emphasis on the takedown. Now, with the ruling that you're going with, you're putting no emphasis on the takedown.
It's not no emphasis. I acknowledge he did those things. It's just not enough.
But you're not. But you're putting more emphasis on the striking, which is
because it's 4/5 of the activity. It's not even half. 4/5 of the activity.
So if he barely has him with the activity, which
it's not barely, it's 4/5. Like it's the majority.
4 strikes.
But the majority of the round.
No, 4
so it's
strikes.
An overall activity. It's overall defense. It's overall rates. And when you look at, he only got control of 1 minute and 8 seconds collectively between the wrestling and the ground game.
But that over extends the 4 strikes total that he had
it's
over
6 strikes. It's 6 strikes, but the rates show defense as well, which is a factor that is important when it comes to striking. It's not just overall number of strikes landed, overall number of strikes thrown. How good is your defense also?
But they don't use that. They don't use that.
That's what these rates show right here.
That's just showing how. That's just showing how effective he is. That's not included in judging. The judging.
Well, they don't really have anything solid in judging. It's based on what they see and what they perceive. So those percentages would play out in the fact that Vettori could barely punch Adesanya. He was literally just up against the cage, ducking and weaving out the way. That's going to factor into the judging. And
then what also you can see is Adesanya playing on the defense the whole time. He wasn't being the aggressor. He was the one backing up.
So in the beginning half, he was taking his read, getting his measure. But by the time you got to probably about 3 minutes into the round, that's when he started taking the initiative, and he was leading with the jab, hitting with the crosses and the counterattack. So he was getting more active. But again, even so, he still had to control for the majority of that because the ground control time only accounts for a fifth.
I totally disagree with that because you still got to go with the actual judging scoring, and then
they don't really have an actual judging scoring. They just do
exactly.
They see.
And then with the Maia fight, that proves my point that this shit is so fucking out of whack because you gave Maia, who did the same exact thing, just worse than Vettori.
I didn't give him the round.
No, not you. Exactly.
I think
the judges.
2 judges gave him the round. One of them didn't, but 2 of them did.
Yeah. And then his was worse than Vettori. Because he tried to go for 11 takedowns and he only got one.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
11.
So I need to start judging all of these fights. They just need to like defer to me, give me the fucking feed, and I'll be like, all right, this is how that went, and I'll just score all of them.
But because it's so because they have the judging so out of whack where they put too much on. They basically just went from giving too much power to the takedowns to now it's too much power on the opposite. They need to balance it out. They don't have
any real, like they say these are the categories, but the judges don't use that shit. The judges just go based on what they see. Half the time they don't even know what they're fucking looking at. So it's like they say there are these clear-cut categories of scoring for octagon control and all that's bullshit. They don't fucking use that. The judges don't even know what the fuck that is. They're just going based on what they see.
Just ask the judge that gave John Jones 4 rounds to 1 against Dominic Reyes when clearly he didn't win that fight. But that's just me.
Oh, God.
That was the worst thing ever. I'm like, oh, yeah, we can guarantee that he won rounds 1 and 2. And then 3, 4, and 5, you can be like, okay, 3, 4 to Jones, and then 5. You can play around with what you want. But it's like 4 rounds to 1. What do you want me to replace you? Because I mean,
the judges have always been problematic, but I think at least now they're problematic, but they're not overemphasizing like you got to take down, therefore you get the round sort of thing. That I think is too weighted in that favor because it's not that hard to get a takedown. At the end of the day, it's really not that hard. Like as a grappler, I can tell you, people lose their footing all the fucking time, and that's still, you got a takedown. Well, there it is, but it's really not all that much work if you even have a little bit of knowledge of what you're doing.
But I feel like then they use it in the opposite sense. They're like, he got a takedown. We're not going to score it because it doesn't mean anything. I think they just went from one side of the to the other.
Well, I think the problem is they don't know what they're looking at when it comes to the grappling. Like they don't really understand what they're seeing, so they don't know how to judge it accurately because these aren't fighters. These are like, who the fuck is a Derek Cleary, Sal D'Amato, and Chris Flores? Who the fuck are these people? They're just like randos they brought in, but like, hey, you want to judge a fight? Like, where did they get these people from? Let me Google one of these people. I'm curious. Let's do Derek Cleary. I wonder what his day job is. If I can even find him.
Probably works in a financial department somewhere.
Let's see. Derek Cleary. So he's on the payroll. Here's his LinkedIn. Let's see. So he worked in a Bellator as a judge. Oh, he's a referee. So he was a referee in the Lyoto Machida Rafael Carvalho fight. So he worked as a referee. He's worked at a utilities company in Dalton. That's it for 24 years. So that's most of his professional career is working at a utilities company, and he reffed for a fight, it looks like. And that's it. That's his experience. That's his big qualification for being a judge. See what I mean? Like these are not people who necessarily know what they're looking at. The one fight he reffed maybe gave him some background, but it was one fight. I didn't see anything else. He was like 24 years in utilities. What does that prepare you to judge? I don't know, man. I don't know. This is some bullshit.
Bullshit, but all in all, Adesanya won the fight.
Yep.
We agreed on that. Just not the first round, but let's get to the stats. We had Adesanya, who had 122 total strikes, 96 significant, 44 to the head, 11 to the body, 41 leg kicks, 36 seconds of control time, whereas Marvin Vettori had 91 total strikes, 58 significant, 42 to the head, 7 to the body, 9 of 10 leg kicks, 6 minutes and 55 seconds of control time, 14 takedowns, and 0 submission attempts.
Well, there you go. Pretty much got outclassed in every category. Yeah, actually every category except the ground control time. Everything else, and the takedowns, obviously. Adesanya didn't try to take him down, but everything in the stand-up, that's pretty one-sided. Holy shit.
Yeah. But who cares about takedowns?
We haven't gone at it like that since we were talking about how to pay UFC fighters. Like, damn.
And I just talked about that last week, and it went well. That one went well. So
should have had me pop in for that conversation.
I was waiting for you. I was waiting for Mike to be like, Guess what, Dan? Pop right in, special, just for
Surprise!
this thing.
Like an ambush.
Hey, it's always good to have a nice clean argument in the cage. That's what I said.
Absolutely. Oh god.
But
we'll see what happens going forward with these guys. Like, I want to see the Whitaker fight. That's the one that should have happened. 100%. No question.
That needs to happen. He wanted more time. He basically said Whitaker said he wanted more time so he could see his family and whatnot. He wanted to be prepared. And then what Adesanya said he wants to do it in Auckland, New Zealand. So that'd be cool. That'd be cool. With him being from there. And then Whitaker being from Australia, it'd be a nice fight in itself. And if I see Whitaker like I did the past two fights, it'll make for a good fight because I feel like he won't lose the same way that he did before.
Absolutely not. Like the way he lost the first time is he was like this overly aggressive, like bulldog power striker, and he just walked into those counter strikes over and over again. One of them just put his lights out. But when you saw him in the Gastelum fight, he was very measured. He was very controlled. He mixed it up. He was good about finding his timing, finding his range, his rhythm. And I mean, he performed really well. Put on a fucking striking clinic.
Yeah. Even in the Cannonier fight, Cannonier couldn't get anything started. He hit him with the combinations. He was just ruthless. And then with the takedowns, Cannonier couldn't get anything started. Yeah. And then he just looked different. He took the time off and then he used it the right way. Like he improved everything. He fine-tuned when he needed to. His mindset was, I need to get revenge because they didn't give him his rematch right away like most guys did. So he was able to go about it the right way. Boom, boom, fix this, fix that. And those two fights actually helped him. And then it put him in a better position to try and get his belt back.
Oh, no shit. Did you know Whitaker's he was born in Auckland, New Zealand. So there you go. It's kind of, they're both get the home field advantage on that one. But he's also got like good wrestling credentials and shit. He's got, that doesn't mean anything, but
he trains with
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
He trains with Jacob Malkoon, so.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They're big wrestlers in that training camp. So, I mean, he would be able to deliver the same sort of problems Adesanya had in the Jovic fight, except he's faster. He's got the combinations on his side. I think Adesanya is still the more technical striker, but when you combine all the elements,
the boxing,
I mean, it's going to be hard to counter what Whitaker's bringing to the table. But, like, what does Vettori do in the meantime? Like, I don't know. where does he go now? You know what I mean? Like, he lost pretty badly.
I don't even know. Like Brunson's going up against Till. Yeah. Maybe give him. Has he fought Hermanson yet?
He has, and he that was one of the guys he knocked out on his way up. Which, I mean, even then, a rematch there wouldn't be that interesting. Hermanson's getting a little older.
I got it. Vettori, Paulo Costa.
That's what I was thinking, is give him the loser of Costa Cannonier because they're booked to fight.
Well,
so whoever loses,
not anymore.
Oh, really? That got thrown? What happened?
Well, Paulo Costa did
he drink wine again?
Yeah. He pulled out of the fight because he said he wasn't getting paid main event money. So he pulled out of it.
Bitch! Oh my! What a bitch!
Guess who they replaced him with?
Who?
Just give a wild guess.
Oh God! Did they give him
Uriah
Hill?
No. They replaced him with the same guy that replaced him last time.
Oh, is it Kevin Holland?
No, okay. Gastelum.
Those after Kevin Holland, that was going to be my next guess.
Because it was supposed to be Costa and Whitaker. Costa pulled out of that with the injury, and then they replaced him with Gastelum. Now he's pulled out of this one
twice.
Yeah, now he's pulling out again, but this time because of main event money. So Gastelum's like, okay, like what do I got to lose? I'm ranked number 9. Like,
right? Yeah, I can only go up from here.
It's the same thing. He was like, I'm just getting paid to replace you again. That just this time I get more time to train because it's in August, so I actually get 2 months this time instead of 3 weeks. So
Jesus
and it's a better matchup for him. So if he wins, he can move up all the way to 4. Right. Shoots himself up just doing that. So like, fuck it, like I've become more of a Gaston fan just because he keeps taking Paulo Costa's fight. I hope Paulo Costa just like gets knocked out in training now.
Well, that's the thing. Like Paulo, I'm all for MMA fighters getting paid what they're worth, but Paulo Costa came off of a pretty devastating loss to Adesanya. Got scheduled twice. One of them, he got sick. Can't do anything about that. Second one, he's like, I'm not being paid enough. Motherfucker, you're number 3 in the division. They're paying you pretty well, probably, but like if you want Adesanya money, you got to win like Adesanya. You know what I mean?
And it's the main event, and you're main eventing, so it's
so I mean, it's not like they probably fucking undercut him. That fight would have gotten some decent money. I think people do want to see a Paulo Costa fight Cannonier. That would have been a fucking slugfest.
Yeah. Now you're not getting now you're not getting paid, and Gaston's getting paid what we're going to get paid again because he's taking the fight as the replacement, and now he's headlining again, but this time with Cannonier. Because
I don't think Vettori deserved to fight up, though. He lost pretty bad. Maybe give him the winner of Brunson Till, because he's fighting down, but he's not fighting down that much.
I'm saying that because at this rate, they're going to move Costa down because of inactivity. Possibly. At some point, because this is his second time, I think they're going to make Costa fight down.
They might. I mean, they'll probably make him fight down. Not only that, he's sitting on a loss. There, it makes no sense to let him fight up, But I don't know. Let's see on Tuesday how these things shake down. We'll see if Costa ends up moving because Marvin Vettori also lost. So it might be the case that they both move down and like Cannonier moves up because he's scheduled to fight. He's coming off of is he off of a win? Let me see. Cannonier, he's off of a loss. That's right, against Whitaker. So it might be the case that they just stay because they're all on losses. Paulo Costa's inactive, but the other guys are not winning. So it's like, do you move Derek Brunson up because he won? But he's in number 5. That doesn't make sense to put him at number 2 just because he won. You know what I mean?
He's 5 fighting 7. Uriah Hall's 8. He's fighting number 11 Strickland.
That's right.
Gaslin's 9. He's fighting number 4 Cannonier. So you got these guys. I think Akhmadov is 13 fighting number 15 Tavares. So like you got them all booked. So like I just feel like they're gonna make Costa fight down to Vettori, possibly just for that because they're both coming off a loss.
I mean, personally, because Costa rescheduled so much, I would expect a bigger spread, kind of like the Gastelum Cannonier spread. Like for Costa, give him like, I don't know, Uriah Hall if he wins against Strickland, or maybe the winner of that fight, have them fight Paulo Costa. That way, like he has to fucking perform or drop.
By the way, that's a main event too.
Oh, that fight, yeah. That's
They took it off the August 7th card and then moved it to July 31st to make it a main event. So that's another main event in that division that he's not getting because he's not getting paid. But all these other guys in the top 10, top 11 are main event and not caring.
Yeah,
because they're getting paid.
You got to show up to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to show up to work.
It's just a thing where from July 30th, from the end of July to the beginning of September, your whole division is main eventing every week, except for the Nunez Pena card. Mm-hmm. Yet you're saying that need to get paid more, blah blah blah. Bitch, your whole division's main eventing, and they're making money, but you because you're not fighting.
Right. I mean, he would have main evented. But he's like, oh, it's not a good enough main event though.
Come on, number 11
on a loss.
Yeah, number 11 of rank. Sean Strickland is main eventing.
Right.
He's getting paid more than you because he's fighting and you're not. That's the problem. Yeah, you're not going to get paid. You got to show up and get paid. It's like. Eventually, you guys are going to get paid more, but it's not going to help when you're not fighting. You know, that's just how it is right now.
He could get all the bonuses too. So I mean, if he puts on a good enough performance, he could get paid more. So it's like
now the only place he's going to get the bonuses is in his head because he thinks he's going to get it, but he's not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Give him the winner of fucking Hall Strickland. That way, it's a punishment. Yeah. That way he's like, man, if I lose, I'm down in the fucking bottom 10. I got to fight my way back up. And at least Marvin Vettori, at least he's showing up and fighting. So give him Cannonier or a Brunson Till winner. Because, I mean, he's lost, but, you know, if he loses, it's a small drop. He can make that back.
Yep. But before we get ready to go, let's just shine them light up on next weekend. We got UFC Vegas 29, which is headlined by Daniel Ige going up against the Korean Zombie. I'm looking forward to that fight.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that, what's the one after that?
Gane Volkov. That's going to be a banger. Woo-hoo.
Then you got Gan Volkov, and then you got a week off after that for the July before we got the Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier banger right there, trilogy, to see what happens there. I'm excited for that. But as always, you can find us on the Sports Box every Monday night at 8:30 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just go to Sports Box at Sports Box Show, the Sports Box Show, and then at the Sports Box Show. Make sure you subscribe to the Sports Box, our affiliate. Great group of guys, different podcasts every day for whatever you're looking for. The Sports Box likely has it. And then, of course, as always, we are Cage by IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us at our handles to the left on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. And then, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do recap and preview videos as well as interviews. And then, of course, right now, as I always, we're on every Monday at 8:40 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So check us out. Let everybody know. Hit the like button and subscribe. We could use more likes on the channel. But let us know what you think in the comment section, as always. And of course, I am your host, D-Bake. This is my co-host, Miles. Yep. And we hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night.
Absolutely.
Talk to you guys later.
See you guys.
Thank you for watching this episode of Cage My IQ on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.